Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on ownership and control of the media, focusing on patterns of ownership. Sociologists often examine the changing patterns of media ownership as this reflects the different sociological perspectives on ownership of the media. While Marxists and neo-Marxists suggest that the media is in the hands of very few, usually ruling class owners, pluralists and postmodernists suggest that there exists a diverse range of ownership of media sources. In 2021, the Media Reform Coalition presented their fourth report into the ownership of the UK media, and their first since the COVID-19 pandemic. In their report, they found that there was an increasingly small and select group that dominated ownership of the UK media, and that these groups were dominant across several different platforms. In their report, they examined data on the ownership of different media sources, including patterns in traditional print media, such as newspapers, and new media sources, particularly online platforms. They also measured ownership of local and national radio, and the findings for different media sources were very similar. The key findings of the report are outlined on the screen. Just 3 media companies, DMG Media, which publishes the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday, News UK, which publishes the Sun and the Times, and Reach Publications, which publishes the Daily Mirror and Express, dominate the traditional print media market, with 90% of the weekly circulation of newspapers being owned by those 3 groups. This demonstrates Marxist ideas of media being concentrated into the hands of a few owners. This has increased in the last 2 years from 83% in 2019, which also demonstrates the impact of global conglomerates taking over ownership of the media. Furthermore, 83% of local newspapers are owned by just 6 companies, one of which is Reach Publications. In terms of online news, 3 of the top 5 ways that people keep up to date with news, Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, are owned by Meta. In national and local radio, just 2 companies, Global Media and Bauer Media, own 70% of the UK's 279 commercial analogue radio stations, and this has increased by 20% over the last 4 years. This data demonstrates not only the dominance of few owners, but also the expansion of global conglomerates that control how we access the media, which further supports Marxist ideas on ownership and control, and how the ruling class may use this to manipulate their audience. Looking a bit deeper into these findings, on the screen we have the circulation figures for traditional print media. As we can see, DMG and News UK publications account for around 70% of the market alone, with Reach Publications accounting for just under 20% of the market. This gives those publications a significant audience, which Marxists would suggest allows them to set agendas. Conversely, pluralists would suggest that the newspapers that both DMG and News UK produce tend to reflect more conservative values, and that they are popular because this is what consumers identify with. Furthermore, they would suggest that the Guardian and Telegraph readers, both perceived as broadsheet and more intellectual newspapers, have lower readership than other forms, suggesting that tabloid coverage, as put forward by the Sun, the Mail and the Mirror, is more popular in society. It's what people want, and so the popularity of these papers reflects the needs of the audience. This counters neo-Marxist ideas that reporters and editors only report on the hegemonic concerns of the ruling class. Combining print and digital media yields similar results. Despite a decline in print sales and distribution in recent years, there's been a growth in digital and online news publications. Combining both online media and print circulation demonstrates similar patterns of readership. The Sun and the Mail retain their popularity across both formats, whilst the Times and the Telegraph, both subscription services, have lower percentages of readership. One noticeable shift is the Guardian, whose readership is much higher online than in print. However, the continuing dominance of the big 3 in terms of digital and print media remains. Pluralists would suggest that the wide spread of readership reflects the demand of audiences. With digital alternatives, people will still maintain their loyalty to a specific media brand. even when they're online. Looking at new media sources alone, the pattern continues. The Daily Mail is the most popular news site, but only marginally from The Guardian in terms of global views per month. We can also see from a pluralist viewpoint how other publishers are able to gain an audience through online media. International websites such as BuzzFeed and Breitbart are global news sources, and we can link this into postmodern approaches of a global media and individuals picking and choosing what to engage with. While independents are becoming more influential, for example the Canary, Guido Fawkes and Novara Media, who all offer differing viewpoints to mainstream media, are gaining followers and engaging with sizable audiences. This again reflects the pluralist and postmodern viewpoints that ownership of the media, particularly in contemporary society, is more diverse and driven towards consumers. However, independent websites such as those listed are perceived as being more partisan than mainstream media. What does all of this data mean? Well, we can use the data to support different theoretical perspectives of media ownership and the content that is delivered. For example, the large shares of the market that owners have allows them to have more influence on their views of the population. For example, how the Sun newspaper is often seen as a barometer for political opinion, with its allegiance being courted by political parties as it is seen to dictate the voice of the electorate. We can also argue that the data demonstrates a greater diversity of media sources, and how new media is influencing the range of ideas and viewpoints that are put forward by the media, especially as people look for alternative views. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on ownership and control of the media, looking at patterns of media ownership. Thanks for watching.